Close the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Landis.
Thanks, Chris. So welcome, everyone. I'm Landis Jackson, and I am from Calgary and have had 15 years of experience in HR. And right now, I'm teaching at Bow Valley College. So it's interesting to be working with people who are just maybe starting in their careers or have moved here from other countries and are wanting to get a start in the Canadian workplace. So it's kind of fun working with those type of individuals. Before I get starting to talk, I'd like to kind of know what intrigued you to come to this session. And if you could introduce yourselves, that would be great. So if I could start here. Now, so I guess you're going to have to throw this around and speak into this so that Scott can pick up what you're saying. So,
is that close enough? So yeah, we are a company that works with construction, and so we have quite a few people that work with us, and personally, and as well sometimes hiring other trades. And so, what are the right and wrong ways of doing things? That's sometimes a question that comes up. And other than that, just simply keeping ourselves up to date, I guess, and learning more. Okay. There's these kind of things that sometimes we, don't take time for, because I still don't even know what we're all doing here.
Right.
But and so that's part of
right.
But it's a learning experience, and it'll be good.
Okay, great. And you are
Willie.
Willie.
Okay. My name is Jeffrey Neufeld. I'm with Terra Mesa as well. Mm-hmm. I'm currently helping in the office position.
Okay. What would you like to learn today? What attracted you to come, or were you told you're going?
I'm new at the company, so I'm just kind of tagging along.
Okay, yeah. Good. Welcome.
My name is George Sawatsky. Willie and myself, we are the owners of Terra Mesa, and so for me, I was actually not scheduled to be here, but due to somebody else's spot coming available, I took the place. Mm-hmm. But for me, it is learning about people and dealing with people, how to work with people, and change. I think we're all experiencing a tremendous change in the workplace, how we deal with people, and so I think I'm hoping to learn something on how to do that better, mm-hmm. and ways to improve.
Okay.
I'm Peter Martins. I'm also at Terra Mesa. I'm out in the field. I lead crews, so I hope to learn how to inspire the crew to get lots of work done.
Okay, great.
I'm Kathy Maxwell, CEO of the Lethbridge Real Estate Board. And what I'm looking for is sort of an employee framework, reviewing of job descriptions, performance management, and really helping them to grow and learn while being really effective at their job and empowered to think resourcefully.
And I'm Nicole with Casco Cattle Company. I guess I'm here just because I'm always looking to learn anything and everything HR. And one of my favorite things about these sessions is I end up just learning a lot from all of you that are in here and just the discussions that we have. So that's what I look forward to.
Okay.
I'm Kim, and I'm from McIntyre Ranching Company. I'm here because we deal with a lot of, we have a few different aspects of people in our company. Mm-hmm. And I just want to learn how to be more effective in dealing with them and bringing the best out of them.
Okay.
I'm Johnny Baduro with the McIntyre Ranching Co.
Uh-huh.
I kind of function as an accountant, kind of mix in everywhere. And what I'm hoping to get out of this is just an idea of how to better communicate, different medias of communication, what is best, what is wrong, and how to reach out to employees.
Okay.
I'm Dwayne with AirTech Heating Air Conditioning. My role is to help put the systems and structures in place so that as we grow, it's not an impediment. And I can see HR becoming something on the horizon that's going to become a bigger issue as we continue to grow. So I want to make sure that we get that laid out before we hit that.
And how large is your company right now?
Just under 50.
Okay.
So if we were going to be 100 or 150,
Yes.
When you have the oh shit moment,
Yes.
now we can build our system so that by the time we get to that point, it's not an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I'm Lance with AirTech Heating as well. Not to be repetitious, what Dwayne was saying is definitely true. When we first started out 15 years ago, it was mostly about the work and completing the jobs well and building the reputation. As we grew, we realized that what was really important was the work, but more importantly was the people and building the culture, as somebody had mentioned, where you cultivate it such that people want to be there. They put their best and all their efforts into it. And so by coming to seminars like this, we're hoping that we can glean, that little tidbit that'll just make our workplace better.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Matt Chimman from Murray Chev Cadillac. Just started there a couple months ago as the HR manager and a few other things, including safety as well.
Okay.
And recent grad a couple years ago, and so I'm just really spent the first couple months really learning with the company's current HR practices, and I'm just really open to learning a lot for myself, for my own personal development, but also look into a few ideas of how I can improve on existing HR policies and practices at the company.
How large would your workforce be?
We have two locations, about 92 employees between both locations.
Okay. Is it a union environment?
No.
My name's Tara. I am the HR manager for Triple M Housing, and I've been doing HR for probably about 20 years. So for me, this is just about networking and just always learning new tools for the toolbox. So.
Okay.
I am Miriam. I'm the HR generalist at Davis Automotive Group. Kind of in the past, HR hasn't been too important. I think once they kind of grew to 600 employees, they realized that HR is a necessity. And so a lot of our managers in different locations don't really have HR under their belt. So kind of taking this information, passing it along to them to help them make better choices.
Okay. And when you say locations?
So we're throughout Alberta. Ranging from Westlock, Barrhead, Airdrie, and then down to Fort McLeod.
Okay.
Area.
All right. Okay. So 4 or 5 locations?
Total, there's 16 dealerships.
16 locations? Oh, okay. All right. And would you have a corporate HR team providing support to all those 16 locations?
Yes.
Is that how you do it?
An HR director and then 2 generalists.
Okay. Great. Okay. So I'm going to go through these slides, and I'm going to encourage you to have a discussion at your table on the concepts that we are going to be talking about. Back a number of years ago, HR was viewed as the transactional. I don't know where to stand that I'm not, you guys can see me.
Let me move so you're right behind me.
There. I'll stand up here. So HR was very much personnel related. So what they did is they processed payroll, and that's all. HR has really changed from that. And you've got to be thinking about this in your organizations. No matter how many people you've got to engage those individuals, because if you don't engage them, they're going to leave you. People's loyalty now is much shorter than it ever was before. When for example, parents started working, you stayed with an organization for 20 years. You were loyal. Maybe you even retired there. Well, those days are gone. Very seldom will you have an individual who has been there that long. People are looking now at 3 or 4 years, and then what else can we do? So to keep those folks a little longer, you want to invest in them. You want to know, you want to figure out who they are. But it means that your whole HR function needs to change as well. So that's what I want to talk about this morning is educating you a little bit about what HR is, what it should be, and then how do you make that move from this transactional piece to transformational. No matter what your size of organization is, you need to be thinking about HR needs to be at the discussion with the senior leaders. What's the purpose of the business? And then how do we get our people to work so that they support that business? It starts at the very beginning. What's the brand that your organization has in the community that you live? Are you attracting people? Or are you struggling with that? And if you're struggling with attracting, some of it could be the labor market itself. There just might not be enough people. Where are you going to find those people? HR can help you with that. And don't feel you always have to advertise the way you've always done it before. Those days have changed as well. You should be doing some recruiting online, but not just through Indeed. There's more to it than that. Now, with the ranch, you might be a little different. I don't know if your employees would be looking online, but still your reputation is important. Are they looking online? Okay, great, good. And HR can certainly give you some ideas with that. HR now needs to be a business partner. What does that mean? They're working with the managers. They're not in that office in the back where they're just sitting there processing paper and rolling out programs. They, in fact, need to be working with the managers, saying, how are you inspiring your employees? It's not HR's job to hire and fire. They work with the managers in the organization. So it's really developing that partnership with the managers that are presently there. You need to be thinking about our organization. Where are we at? And I want you just to think about this for a minute. So are you just trying to survive? Or are you, in fact, in the positive and you're working at profitability? Where are your customer service levels? What are your clients saying about you? And your employee base should mirror your customers. So if your customers are all women, you better have some female employees in your workforce. If your customers are all between the ages of 20 and 50, you better have some of your employees in that age group as well. It will, in fact, ensure that your people are connecting with your customers. If you, in fact, have multicultural customers, you need to ensure that your workforce mirrors that as well. So the 20 to 30-year-old male Caucasian may not fit your organization anymore. So you really have to think about who are our customers and do we have that in our workforce? And we really need to focus on employee performance. Stop keeping people around in your organization just because they've been here. No, those days are gone as well. The workplace has changed. People have got to be productive. Now, to get your people there, there's a few things that we have to do. As an employer, we've got a responsibility to those employees. Don't expect that they're going to know this when they walk in the door. So in your organization, have you thought about, this is where we are today, this is where we want to be in 3 years' time? And if you've thought about that, what kind of problems might come along? What might we experience? How do we get the business and the employees working together? Every practice that you have, whether it's hiring, how you pay them, how you reward them, how do you recognize them, all needs to tie into the type of business that you've got. And those of you that don't have HR in your teams, you will find that once you get your employee base to 75 or 80, you need to start looking at either hiring a consultant to come in, or you need to get looking at hiring someone part-time. If you don't have you have a much smaller workforce than that, then there's lots of consultants out there that could help you just on I need to call you and talk about this particular thing. It's hard work getting people to work together. I'm going to tell you that right now. You think it's easy, but you know what? They struggle working with each other. How do we get this to move forward? Also recognize who your stakeholders are. Who are your clients? Who are your vendors? Who are your suppliers? And then who are your employees? And how do your employees work with each one of those groups? Or do your employees just have to work with each other? If they've got to work with the vendors, if they've got to work with the suppliers, then you better be ensuring that they know how to communicate. The new type of employee that's coming into the workplace now is very connected technology-wise, but they've lost the ability to communicate. Have you ever noticed how they send an email? They're using you rather than Y-O-U. How does that represent your organization? So all of these things are impacting what's going on in the workplace. And you've got to consider that when you're starting to look at, so how do we move from a payroll-related HR function into this transactional area? And if you get talking about these discussions, then how are we going to measure performance? Do you pay everyone and give them an increase because it's the yearly time to do it? Or do you have the courage to indicate to someone you haven't been performing all year? You are not getting a salary increase. Yeah, it's a hard conversation to have, but we're there now. You've got to start making people accountable. Why? Because all your other employees are watching. They're watching that you continue to pay that poor performer. They arrive late. They treat the customer terrible, or the vendor, or whoever. Their customer service skills are poor. They sometimes don't do very good quality work. Yet when it comes to salary increases, everybody gets 2%, 3%. You're giving a very different message to your employees if that's how you are creating your compensation package. You're indicating to them non-performance is okay. You get a salary increase. You also need to be thinking about providing feedback to people. We're in a different place in our workplaces now that you need to provide feedback to people, both positive and constructive. I want you to think in your day-to-day interactions with people, how much time do you spend with your A players, your top performers? Quite often we forget about them. They know what they're doing. We don't need to mentor them. We don't need to coach them. They'll get it done. So we don't ever tell them, you're doing a fantastic job with our customer service, or whatever it is you're asking them to do. Let them know what they're doing that you like. Stop saying good job, because good job doesn't mean anything. So what did I do today that was well done? Be specific in that feedback you're providing, but give those people time, because quite often we forget about them. Now, if you've got those C and D players, you've got to make a decision. Do we want to keep these people? Is it worth our while investing in them? Because it might be. Maybe they just are inexperienced. Maybe this is their first full-time job, so they really don't know what's expected in industry. So maybe it's a matter of you coaching those individuals along. But if you've got F performers, they're really low, they are making mistakes, they don't show up, why do you keep them? Maybe it's time to let them go. Help them with their exit strategy. Don't continue to have those people in your organization, because all of those people will be out there talking, because they all have a community. And that's how your brand gets passed from one person to another. And if they see those F players with your organization, in their mind, they're going to form an opinion about your organization. And brand is really important in this economy that we've got in Alberta. Make sure you ask questions as we go along, how it might apply to your particular organization, or if you're questioning something that I'm saying, please, by all means. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Reputation is what I'm talking about. Yeah. What's the reputation? So if I was to go to your customers, what would they say about you? If I was to go to the community in Lethbridge, what would they say about your organization? If they don't know about your organization, then you've got to do something about that. If I was to ask people, what is ABC Company? And they say, I don't know, I've never heard of it. Then you need to be thinking about, maybe we need to get our name out there in some way. And if I did ask people, what would they say? And is it the reputation that you want to have? For example, WestJet in Calgary is known as being a very low payer. If you want high salary in the transportation industry in air, you would not work for WestJet because they pay at the low end. However, they've told their employees there's lots of other benefits that we give you. And so this is the total package. And that's what I mean about reputation is that, okay, so I want to work for a place that we can actually have fun on the plane. I want to work for a place that I might get some profit back at the end of the year. All of those things play into the compensation, but it's the reputation of that particular organization. Whereas if you look at the other airlines, much different reputation. And so you have to decide, what are we going to do? Okay? So in your organizations, where are you right now? What stage are you at? And you might be at all three at the same time. Depends on how long you've been in business, what your type of business is, and the economy in the area that you're living. But if you're restructuring, it brings one set of HR issues. If you're in your growth stage, it brings another set of HR issues. And if you're in stability, it will bring another set. And that's what I want to focus on. So you need to think, where are we in this focus that we've got right now as a company? If we look at restructuring, when you have a change in leadership, when you have a change in management, quite often you will see that there is some type of turnover because some of your employees will be at that organization because of the people in the leadership role. They joined that organization because someone was there as the president or the VP of whatever. So they've got a connection with that person. When that person leaves, usually the direction of the organization will change a little bit. And maybe they don't want to stay there and follow the new way, so they will follow that person to another company. So this is what I mean by manage your turnover. Know your employees. Are the employees committed to the company or are they committed to a particular person in the leadership team? Because that will affect your turnover. You should have turnover. I'm not saying not to. If you never have turnover, that's not a proactive organization. You don't have new ideas coming into the organization. So you should keep your turnover rate like 5-7% a year. But if you've got it up around 20, 40, 60, 80, that's too high. You've got too many people leaving the organization. You're spending all that time training them, and then they're walking out the door, maybe going to the competition. Who knows where they're going? But 5 or 7% on turnover is all right. And what's good is that if your people tell you ahead of time that they're leaving, because then you can start to plan. When they hand you the letter, it says, I'm leaving as of 2 weeks from now, and they are a major player in your organization, and you have not cross-trained, they have specific knowledge, this is when you get yourselves in trouble. And this is when you want to have that move, that shift from a transactional HR to a transformational HR. You want to work with the business so that the business continues and it doesn't stop when individuals leave. When you have restructuring, it's also an opportunity for you to get thinking about selective layoffs. So maybe you've got that D or F employee. This might be the opportunity for you to talk to the individual about, do they really want to be in your organization? It's okay to have those conversations. Do you know what all your staff would say if you sat down and asked them that question? Are you prepared for the answer? Because they might be telling you, you know what, I'm here just for a paycheck. I don't really care about this organization. Is that the type of employee you want? That's the decision you've got to make. Okay. There is an increased demand when you've got restructuring happening on the people that stay. And don't forget about that. If you've got people that are leaving the organization, That's one thing. But it's the others that are in the organization staying that have to get the work done, but then also have the feeling of loss. Gee, we lost 5 really good people in the last 2 months. What's happening in our organization? And you might want to start watching and observing as to whether there's getting to be a nervousness in your organization. HR, for those of you that are in HR, that means getting out of your office. It's not sitting in your office and just processing paperwork. It's getting out with the people. Have you ever walked the jobs of the employees that are in your organization? Do you know what they really do? That's transformational. And those of you that are leaders in your organization, do you know what everyone's doing in that organization? If it's a small one, you should. And if anyone here is in unions, then of course you've got to renegotiate labor contracts and making sure that you are meeting the collective agreement. Those of you that are non-unionized, you've got a little bit more flexibility. You can add in certain things if you find that your employees are asking for maybe a new reward. Maybe you've got a fairly young workforce, and so they would like to get some reimbursement for taking classes. So they want to continue that learning journey. And so you might want to decide that if, in fact, an employee is taking a course, we'll pay for 50% of the tuition, but they must receive a certain level of mark. And if you leave the organization within a certain period of time, you're going to have to pay us back. Okay, those are ways that you can look at adding things to the compensation package that you might have more struggle if, in fact, you were in a union environment. So that's restructuring. Anyone here going through restructuring right now? No? Okay. So let's talk about growth. So this could be where your organization is at, and this is a different type of work that HR needs to do. For one thing, you've got to be looking at getting those people into your organization, but not just a body. You want to make sure they've got the skills that you're looking for. So when you, in your mind, decide, you know what, I need to hire a painter, whatever. You need to think about what type of skills do we want those people to have? Do they only need to be able to know how to paint? Or do they need to know how to be able to communicate? Because maybe our customer will be coming around and they're going to have to learn that skill. So you've got to start thinking about what type of skills do we want our people to actually have? And every job, no matter what it is, there will be a technical side, but there will also be the softer side. It's the people skills that they need to have. And we need to develop those. We need to talk about those. And those of you that are owners of organizations, do your people know what you're looking for? Do you say it? Tell them, this is what we're looking for. In the interview, in the job posting, identify what in fact it is that you are looking for so that those people will be attracted to the posting and put their name in so that you can look at that. If you've got a tight labor market, you've got to get more aggressive. So it's not just sitting back and posting on Indeed. It's using other sources. What network are you using? What area do the people that you are wanting to hire, where do they shop? Where do they socialize? Are you putting notices up there that you in fact are looking? If there's a job fair, do you ever participate? Do you ever hire interns from educational institutions? Because they can do projects for you that you never have a chance to do. They can do the research. And it's great because it's only maybe a month, depends on the institution, or it can be a 4-month stint. Work experience, you usually don't pay. Internships, co-ops, you normally are expected to pay a minimum wage to those students. So that's a great place to look as well. Compensation review, when you are looking at growing, you've got to be looking at your compensation, because what will happen is that your new staff, you might have to pay more because expectations are different right now, maybe in Lethbridge than they were 5 years ago. And then people talk. And the new folks coming in are going to say, I'm getting paid this amount of money. To your existing staff that's been there, maybe you haven't kept up with their salary. So you've got to be looking at your compensation on a yearly basis. What are we paying people? And is there consistency? And do we recognize that tenure that's in our organization? Employment standards just changed. So some of you have had to increase your salary to $15 an hour. Well, what did you do with the people that were presently making $15? And maybe you didn't do anything, but did you connect with those people? Did you talk to them? Because I'll tell you, if you've not had the conversation, they're probably looking elsewhere. They're looking. They're in your company right now, but during your work time that you're paying them, they're checking out what other opportunities are around. Okay? And then make sure you orient your people. That orientation starts from the time you extend the offer to them, not from the first time they walk in the door. How professional does that offer letter look? And maybe in your industry, you don't even do an offer letter. But how professional are you when you handle yourself with those people? Are you identifying to them expectations in that offer letter? Are you putting down what your core values are? These are great opportunities for you to let your employees know, your prospective employees. You only get one first impression. Don't mess it up. And orientations are gone where you say, here is a manual, go read this and then come and see me. Those days are gone. Your orientation should not be that. Your orientation, in fact, should be shorter periods of time because people's attention span is much less than it used to be. It should be interactive. It shouldn't just be one person doing the whole orientation. Why don't you have someone talking about safety? It's important to every organization. The Occupational Health and Safety Act changed in the spring. So have you integrated all of that into your organization? And some of you in the construction industry, you've got to make sure you're following because audits will be happening before too long. And then secondly, are you giving the people an opportunity to learn? You're here today to learn some new content. Is everyone in your company allowed to learn? They don't have to leave the organization. They might just job shadow. They might follow someone who is experienced and who is a good employee. But it's that learning piece. You want to convince people that learning never stops. This, again, is the way that industry is going. If you've got folks from other countries in your workforce, they have different values. Those of you, if you've ever hired anyone from Japan, their value system, they are very much based on respect. So because you are the manager, they will sit across from you and nod their head because they're respecting you. They may not understand a word you've said. That's what I mean about if you're hiring people from other countries, really understand what their value system was there so that you can educate them on what the expectation is here. Because that Japanese employee sitting across from you who's nodding their head, you're thinking, okay, you're understanding everything I'm saying. Go do your work. Then they come back to you and everything's wrong. And you're thinking, what's going on here? You nodded your head. Well, it's the respect piece. You've got to educate them that here, I'd rather have you ask the question. It's comfortable. Pose the question to me. All right? How many people are growing their business right now? Yeah, some of you should be, I would think. Yes, you're growing your business. Yeah, for sure. All right, stability brings other issues for HR. So you've had these people in your organization for a while. How do you engage them? How do you get them to stop thinking this is just a job to bring money in so I can buy food for dinner and I can go out and enjoy life a little bit? These are the employees that you want to ensure that they look like they enjoy their job. Do you have any employees who you think, do you really want to be here? That sour look on your face, the negativity that's coming out of you, I don't know if this is the best place for you. That's employee engagement. And this, again, is the move into the new HR, is to get people engaged. Ask them. Are you doing anything in the community? Is it important in your sector? Are you supporting any charity? Are you supporting a family maybe in your organization that's struggling? That's giving back to your community. Are you doing anything with sustainability? The younger employees will want that sustainability piece because that's how they've been brought up. Different time than maybe you were. So what are you doing to bring that into your organization? And you don't have to come up with all the answers. Around the table at lunch, have a conversation. Ask their opinion. 2 things that really engage your people. 1, use their name. It's theirs. Don't just say hi. Use their name. And secondly, ask people their opinion. Don't have to accept it. Just get them talking about the business. Succession planning is important. Each one of you need to be thinking about who's replacing me. Who's going to take over when I leave this organization? Are you starting a process of this succession planning? We are going to work together to get you the skills you need so when I leave, the place is okay. And if this is a belief that you have, the place can't operate without me. Think again. Think again, because every one of us is replaceable. There could be a tragedy happen, and maybe something happens to us that we can't go to work tomorrow in the same capacity that we have been all along. Life happens, so you need to be thinking about that succession planning. I also think it's important to recognize people, but don't be giving me a Tim Hortons gift card if I don't go to Tim Hortons. Thank you very much. All of your good effort just went out the window. You don't know me. I don't go to Tim Hortons. Give me a card for some other place, something that means something to me. Have you ever asked your employees, how would you like to be recognized? And if they say to you, cash, money, have a conversation with them. We have to look at other ways. Get them thinking, send them away. Have them think about things. And also a shift in HR. Don't let your employees come to you with a problem, so you have to solve it. Get them thinking. They can identify a problem, but have they got any solutions about what can we do to fix this problem? That's when you're going to engage your people. 30, 40 years ago, presidents, managers had to have all the answers. That's not the way that it is right now. You want to make sure that you're getting your people to think. That is an important skill that we are needing in the workplace of today, thinking. And not everybody has it because they haven't been encouraged to think. It could be their education system. It could be their family system. So don't assume that everybody is a problem solver like you are. You have to give them the skills maybe to get to the point of thinking. So maybe when you have your town hall meetings or whatever you call them, do you ever start by posing a question to your employees about a real live problem and see what the discussion is? Take it down to their level. Don't be speaking up here. Take it down to their level and say, hey, before we get started today, what do you think about this? What should we do about that? Get them engaged in the organization. The other point that I think that it's critical is that do your employees really understand what your business is all about? I work for oil and gas. Big deal. There's a lot of different areas of oil and gas. What does your company really do? Educate them. You're in not-for-profit? Wonderful. There's hundreds of not-for-profit. But what does this organization do compared to all the others? It's that learning piece. It's that knowledge piece. Any questions? Do you see the difference between the issues regardless of where your organization is? And if you're in all 3 of those at one time, then it gets messy. It gets very messy. Oops, sorry. I started to talk about focus your employees about this is what our business is. This is who our competitors are. Do you ever encourage people to walk in your competitors' location? Go see what it's like to be a customer with our competitor. Ask them, what's the reputation? Or ask yourself, what's the reputation of our competition? You need to know who your competitors are out there. You need to walk their buildings. So if you are in the transportation industry, do you ever go walk in your competition and see what it looks like? Because every organization has a culture, and the culture is the personality of the organization. How does it feel when you walk in the door? Are people happy to be there, or is it drudgery? Oh man, I don't know if I want to do business here. This place doesn't feel very good. How authentic is this place? Is it this type of an invitation when you come in the door? Welcome, not even looking at the person. Or are you actually interested in the customer coming in the door, saying, hi, how are you today? If you're training customer service, it's not as easy as what you think, because each one of you are servicing someone in your organization. It's not only the paying customer that comes in the door. It's all those other people in your organization that you are servicing. And how are they treating those other people? So if you've got your accountants in one corner talking about the salespeople, because they're always going off and doing things on their own and they're not following policy and et cetera and so forth. If that's the type of discussion you have in your organization, you might want to be thinking about, we've got to start working together here. Accounting has a place in the organization. So does sales. So we've got to figure out how we all will work together and focus on what's important in this organization. You also want to think about what makes us different. And in your table right now, I want to give you just a couple of minutes. What makes your organization different than your competition? If you don't have any competition, you're the only one. Why is it that you are the only one? So, why, if there's no competition, and if there is competition, what makes you different? Have a quick discussion. What makes you different? Let's hear what you had to say. What makes you different? To the back? What makes your company different, organization different? You're just coming up with that. That's okay. At least you're having the conversation. Do you have competition in Lethbridge? You do. You have a lot. Okay, good. What about your company back there? Do you have a lot of competition? Okay. Yeah. I'm getting the eye. Sorry.
We have different competition because we're in the cattle industry.
Right.
So we compete for different reasons. So we compete for our staff.
Yeah.
We compete for our feed when we're buying feed.
Uh-huh.
But we also have something that we may have different from other places is we have not only a commercial herd, but we have a purebred herd where they draw onto each other. And so when other people are buying our cattle, they always say, well, you have the best cattle.
Right.
Because of this. You always get the top price because of our standards. And everything that we
Fantastic. It's nice to be valued by people in that way. That's fantastic. So keep doing what you're doing, but keep pushing. So people are going to have higher expectations. All right. Okay. Can I get you to throw that to this table over here? What makes your company different?
Well, we're in the cattle industry too. And well, we're a little bit different, but one of the big differences I know is how we treat our employees being in the egg industry is just different altogether.
Yeah.
So I think we're in the forefront of changing how we treat our employees. And
are your employees saying the same thing, or is it just the management saying this?
I would say most employees say that too. There would be a certain frontline staff that don't say that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, you're making the shift.
So we're a little bit different with the real estate board. We're pretty much the only gig in town.
Okay.
You know, you can go to Calgary, you can go to Red Deer, Medicine Hat, but we're pretty much the only place in town.
Okay.
So I'm trying to coach our staff to treat the realtors that walk into our office as if they could walk across the street and get service anywhere else. Otherwise it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You have your own issues when you are the only one.
Yeah.
Because people can be lackadaisical.
Yes.
Then they don't have to think about the customer and our image. So you're right with focusing on that. Can I throw that over here?
Well, actually, it's interesting because we're both at auto groups,
Yes.
and there is some similarities between us in terms of having kind of a family-owned business, and I'd say that, and I think it has positives and negatives. But the thing I was thinking about is our business is very much centered around our general manager. It is a family organization, but a lot of his personality, a lot of the way that he treats people, that's often what kind of carries down with the organization. And I feel like he's a very kind individual, a very knowledgeable individual. And so I think that I kind of feel that that's his persona has kind of disseminated to the organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So I've only been with them for about a month.
Okay.
Probably the biggest thing with them is they went from being a company that was owned by a Japanese company and then was bought out by a small group of our employees is who bought out our company and have become our executive committee.
Okay.
As well, uniquely enough, management also brought the union into the organization. The union didn't come in on their own. Partly for marketing, to be able to sell our homes in certain markets, we have to have that union label on them. So we were unionized, but we have a great working relationship with our union because they came in on a different terms.
Different terms. Okay. All right. You'll have to move that a little closer to yourself.
Kind of like Nat was saying, family-owned group. It's 3 brothers that own all the dealerships.
Okay.
Or have part ownership in them. So definitely that family feel. And they know that they can pass it along to generations to come.
Okay.
So I think that does help quite a bit. And I found when I started, because I only started in March, it was that family feel. They do care about their employees quite a bit. So that's definitely a differentiating factor, although it's kind of the same as that. So
when you work for a family-run business, though, you've got to be very aware of the different generations. Because the grandfather had different values than the dad, than the children.
And we're kind of noticing that right now, too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it brings different issues and you've got to be aware of it. It's not going to be the way that grandpa ran it or the way dad did if the kids are now stepping into it. They grew up in a different time, so the values are different. It's going to happen. It's just the way that it is. Not better, not worse, but just be aware of it. Okay? All right. If you could throw it over here to this table, let's hear what they have to say. Are you the spokesperson?
Not today.
Oh, not today? Okay. If you look at your competition, what makes you different in your organization than your competition?
Ask our clients.
Okay.
They'll speak for us.
They will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost always. We're not a huge company. We haven't done a huge amount of work. We're set up in 2009.
Okay.
But, and so having been a small company, we don't have like 100 or 200 people that you can ask for an opinion. But most everyone that has had us do work for them would do it again anytime.
Okay.
And so, and that I am certain cannot be said from most construction companies.
Wonderful.
Because unless my clients have all just lied to us.
Lied to you.
So,
yes, exactly. Yeah, you hope they don't, right? Yes.
And they're not liars.
Yeah.
They
tell the truth. Yes, exactly. Anyone else want to add to that at this table? Okay. All right. I lost my thought. I was going to make a comment on something. I'll come back to it. Okay. Don't forget about what makes you different. You want to draw on that in your organization and keep telling your people. You might know what it is, but your individual people may not know what makes your organization different. If you've got HR staff, are they keeping up with the trends? Or are they doing HR the way it was supposed to be done 10, 15, 20 years ago? If you don't have HR, are you attending sessions like this to get you thinking about how do we work with the workforce of today? I heard a number of you say something which warms my heart, and that is that our business wouldn't be what it is if we didn't have the people that we do. So it sounds like you've done a lot of good hiring. Fantastic. But you will always do some hiring, it doesn't work. And cut it loose sooner rather than later. They might have done a great sales job in their offer or in their resume and in their cover letter and in the interview. But when they get working in your organization, you can just see that they don't believe, maybe they oversold themselves. Maybe they don't have the skill set that you asked them to have. Let them go and move on. Don't try to work with those type of people because quite often it will not work. The end result will still be the same. Yeah. Oh.
How do you know for sure that they're not going to get it? Like, how do you decide, I'm not going to work with you? That seems kind of harsh to me, but that could just be me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that for sure?
Okay. Go back to the performance. That's the first clue. If you're asking them to do work, the quality of work is bad, the deadlines aren't met. It could also be they're difficult to work with other people. If you have a small company and everyone needs to work together and they just are having arguments with everyone in the organization, those are 3 things that you need to look at.
The quality, deadlines, and
working together. If that's important in your organization, you want to make sure that they practice that. So observe those things in your employees and then make the decisions sooner rather than later. And you know, quite honestly, in all of the terminations I've done, people were relieved when we asked them to leave. If they're those people that are in your organization and they don't seem to be quite fitting in, quite often people know that themselves. So they'll be relieved when you sit down and have that conversation with them. They will be. And those conversations are short. It's not, you know, you're fantastic, but you don't fit in here. No, you don't do that conversation. It's, this is what we're looking for. You're not meeting our expectation. You might have to pay them severance. Pay them severance and away they go. If it's within probation, you don't need to pay severance. Away they go. Treat people respectfully, though. That's the key. Don't be saying personal things about them on the street. All right, that's not what's acceptable. In my career, and I use 2 stats in my mind. One is that you are going to have 1 bad hire a year. Now, if you only have 6 people in your organization, maybe it won't be that many. But if you've got, 50, 60, if you've got 2,000, 4,000, it's going to multiply. But 1 person, you are not going to have a good sense of them from that interview. Why? Because you liked them. So your emotion took over. You didn't hire them for the skills that you needed. It was that, I kind of like this person. Or, that person's like me. Great hire. You bring them in and, oh, you know what? This isn't really working all that well. So that's a kind of a stat that I have. And don't beat yourself up. If you've hired incorrectly, call it a day. A conversation I always have after a month with people is, what are your impressions? What do you think? What we said in the interview, is that what you're living? What we said in the posting, is that what you're doing? Ask them. They'll be honest with you if you've treated them well from day one. But if this is the first time you've ever asked their opinion or spoken to them or used their first name, they're not going to be honest with you because they don't trust you. You haven't earned their trust. Okay. Time for us also to think about all of you and what you're doing in your particular organizations. Number 1 is, do you have any programs in your organization right now that you should stop doing because they really don't have a merit? You've always done those things and you're continuing to do those things, but do the people need them? Do the customers need them? Do your company need them? Assess the programs that you've got in your organization. And if they're not productive, if they're not focused on the performance of the employees, stop them. What we tend to do in our companies is just add on. more and more and more work. We never step back and say, hold it. If we're going to add another task, we better take another one away. Or we better move that task to another person in the organization. It's this piece of moving from transactional to transformational, stepping back and observing our organization, observing the people. Do you and your managers have a good understanding of the skills you're expecting to see, observe in your people? When you say you want good customer service, what does that look like? As an employee, what am I supposed to be doing? And do your employees know that? So don't just use these terms. Explain them. Tell people. Have them do some role play. Have them come in and do some one-on-one with you if they are not displaying the behaviors, in fact, that you want. Also, I hope that you're not an organization that has got 12 goals for every employee every year. It's too much. 2 or 3 goals, 2 or 3 things for the employee to be thinking of. This year, I need to accomplish whatever. That's where it should be. 2 or 3 is more appropriate than 10, 11, 12. Those of you that are in the senior leadership team, again, what goals do you have for your organization? Stop having 30. Bring it down to something that's more manageable and that you can educate your people on. Your people need to know, where are we going as an organization? What do we need to focus on? So if you're building revenue, how does your receptionist help build the revenue? How does your accounts person help with the revenue? Everybody in that organization should understand their role in the whole picture. And then, how are you measuring their success or the success of the program? Do you do an evaluation at the end? Do you go back and observe those people, or does the manager observe those people after the training? You know what? Errors decreased after they went to that training. Or they're more efficient on how they use the software. Or they have better interaction with the with the customers. I'm getting fewer calls back to say, don't ever want to deal with that person again. They just don't get it. Measure the progress that your employees make after going on these courses. Again, days are gone where people just went on courses and never had to do anything with the knowledge. They've got to come back to the organization and they've got to educate the other people that are around. And it's a learning opportunity for them. It's a development piece for them. In a meeting, what 3 things did you learn from the training you went to yesterday? Hear what they have to say. Terrible training, wouldn't suggest it. Okay, we'll know for next time. Let's not send anybody on that type of training again. It's not appropriate. Or maybe we didn't have people that were ready for the training. So those of you that said, honestly, I'm here today as a replacement. Well, I sure hope you walk out of here with one new idea. I hope you don't think it was a complete waste of your time. I haven't done my job if that's the case. But you've got to get people ready to accept these new programs. Right now, I'd like you to talk in your groups. And I'd like us to focus on one thing. I'd like you to focus on improving the knowledge that your people have about your business. What is it? Why are we in it? And how does my role of whatever I do fit into the big picture? That's what I mean about educating them about the business. So can you have a quick discussion in your group about that? And then we'll share again after you have conversation. And I'll give you probably 3 or 4 minutes just to have this quick conversation. So again, what's the purpose? Do they know what the purpose of the organization is? Do they know what their role is in the whole organization? So you want to get out of this, I'm just the whatever. I'm really not important in this organization. If you've got them there, they're important. They better know it, and they better understand how they influence the organization, because everyone has an impact. If they don't have an impact, why do you have them? You don't need them. So, way you go. Quick conversation. Are you ready to share? All right, let's start here, ladies. So, what did you figure out? What might you do? What are you going to go back to your organization and maybe think about or try?
Okay, so I only have 3 staff. And I was just saying a couple weeks ago, in my mind, I thought, I need to really raise the knowledge level of my staff so they really understand what we're doing here and how to serve our members.
Yep.
And I do feel like I have a little bit of I'm just, I can see that. And I have to take ownership of that and do a better job of it. I have said to them, you're the frontline staff. You make this happen.
Yes.
Our strategic plan comes down from the directors and you guys make it happen.
Yeah.
But I need to do a better job.
You need to tell them exactly what does frontline mean. And if you show this behavior to our members, this is what's going to happen. This is a big deal. You are very important.
Yeah.
All right. Quite often the frontline staff get paid the least and they are the most important in your organization. All right. And we got to somehow let those people know that we appreciate and acknowledge what they do in the organization, because we can't pay them. You can't have your lower level people making more money than your higher. That just won't work. But there's other ways that you can certainly let them know that you appreciate what they're doing.
My comment was that I think our employees really understand how their work contributes to the overall goals of the business, and they understand that. And we actually have specific meetings where we share performance criteria with the employees. And there's that part. Then I said one of the parts that maybe we could do better at is the individual learning plans of the employees. So there is dedicated time where they sit with their manager and talk about their goals. And so we might determine their goals, but then there's no action plan to how to achieve them. So I think that's the piece that's kind of next on my radar is, okay, we've started talking about this, but how do we put the action plan into place now?
Right. And what you want to do is, if they've never done an action plan before, is you want to break it into quarters. So for the next 3 months, this is what we want to do. The next 6 months, and then at the end of the year is going to be where the individuals are at. All right. So just break it down a bit. That's how you teach people about learning is to break it. Don't just think a year long, think quarters. Okay. All right. If you could throw it to the back. Thank you.
Just to build on that, we haven't been doing things like employee reviews or 360 reviews. So what we're trying to do right now is trying to build something like that into our system where we're doing it yearly, or we're doing it quarterly, just to let everyone know what their performance is doing for the overall level of the company.
Yes.
If they're doing, how they're doing the good things, how that is affecting the bottom line, how much money you're making at the end of the year, or say if they're missing out on little things, if they're taking extra time, we're not relaying that information to them. And I feel like it is a good step for us to show employees what they're kind of how they're affecting the company as a whole.
Yeah. And not just the employees, but also the management team. Does the management team know how they're doing? Do you ever ask your employees, are you getting the leadership from us that you need? Now, you're only going to get honest feedback if there's that trust factor in your organization. Because you're the big boss, they're going to say, yeah, you're great. You're the best thing that this company ever had. You're not going to get true, honest feedback. Or you might want to ask your peers, if you're a leadership member, you might want to check with each other. How are we doing? You know, what did we do well? What could we work on? When you do annual reviews, just remember, nothing should be a surprise. The content should have been spoken about through the year. So annual reviews, there's never a surprise. You've already talked about it. The review process, if you're going to do it yearly, is just a review of the year. Don't keep all of those problems until that yearly meeting. And by the way, there's 16 things I'm going to talk to you about. I don't like this. You're not meeting this. No, you talk about those through the year. And then that yearly review is more of just a recap. How did you feel about the year? Another thing you might want to think about is don't just have you as leaders chair those meetings. Ask the employee, come to the meeting with 2 things that you think you do well. 1 thing that you'd like help with, you're having trouble with it. Or 1 thing that you would like to add to your jobs, whatever. Get them thinking. It's this thinking piece. I'm really drilling the thinking because we don't do it enough in our organizations. And then you say, you know, our employees are lazy. Well, you've probably put them there. You haven't encouraged them to be thinking about what's going on in the organization and their role. Okay, great. Thank you. You're going to speak on behalf of everyone? Okay, yeah, great.
Just reflecting on, there's a lot of stuff that we have been working on. Our biggest emphasis has been in Lance area, the service side of things, to transform from your job isn't just to go to fix things.
Yep.
Really dealing with everything that customer needs, from quoting solutions, getting the bill done, collecting the payment, making sure it's done right the first time. So that's a big transition that we still have quite a ways to go on, that they realize it's more than that. Lance hit on the head in one of his meetings when he told the technicians, you know, I didn't hire any of you for your skills. And they were kind of aback. One of the things we do is we recognize all the attaboys. Mary Smith just called in and said, you're very professional, you did a great job. So making sure we bring that to the attention. And none of those customer commendations had anything to do with, they were very knowledgeable and really good at the tools they were using.
I liked how they made me feel.
Very much so, that they start to realize that it's the impression of the customer that matters the most.
Yes.
And not so much your technical skills. It's important. That's a tool to get you there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a big part of it.
Okay.
We do a lot of training. We teach all of our staff the business acumen side of it, and we share our financials with them.
Good.
Help them understand that tie-in. But there's other training that we could be sending them on as more customer focused rather than just the technical.
Yeah.
Might be something that we might be able to do better.
Yeah.
We try to show them graphs of key indicators that we believe are important. A chargeable time, that it does two things. One is it shows them what's an important number.
Yes.
And then it also shows them where do you map in relationship to your peers.
Right.
So are you on the high side of the graph or are you on the low side? And we find once people see that, you don't have to take them behind the woodshed. You'll see a 30% improvement just because they're aware of what's important and what they got to improve on.
Yeah, you're focusing them, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Good, you're on the right track then. Is it easy stuff?
No, I find it's fun though if you start getting that in place, but it's a very long transition.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a generational transition. That what used to be important is really tough to make that change.
Yes. And if you have different generations in the workplace, the people that have been there for a long time don't really want to change as quickly as those that are new in the workplace because they've always done it that way. So you have to nudge those individuals. You've got to tell them where you're going in the organization. So I can't express enough about talk with your employees. Great that you're teaching people financial acumen. Most organizations can benefit from that. Teach your people, this is what we look at every single month. This is the number. These are the metrics that we look at. So you need to know this. And this is how it pertains to you as a whatever role that they have. Teach them those things. Don't expect that they will know that, but it's getting that business acumen there. It's tying, then it'll tie them as a person to the whole organization. Okay? If I could get you to just throw that over to this table here, that would be great. Thank you.
So in a lot of our organization is fairly large, and so a lot of my role is coaching and development of everything from our crew leaders to our foremen to our senior management team. But a lot of it is just getting people to realize that I always tell people that in any organization, your janitor is as important as your CAO, because without any of those cogs in the wheel, it doesn't turn. So, but a lot of it is getting people, we have a very multi-generational workforce, but we also have a very diverse workforce. And so getting people to understand that just because this is how you communicate, is it always acceptable? You have the need to adjust communication styles, stuff like that. We have 3 o'clock meetings on our floor. We have a scoreboard that's out on our floor for all of our staff to see all the time what the expectations are that week as far as production, where we're at, what our shortages and challenges are. And so we make sure, and everything from VP, we have VPs down to foremen that attend that meeting at 3 o'clock, and we do it right out on the floor. If staff want to see what's happening, they can see what's happening at any time. Right. But for me, it's really getting them to understand absenteeism is a big issue they're dealing with.
Okay.
And it's having those conversations, not only with getting crew leaders to have conversations with employees when they're just calling and saying they're not in, as far as making them accountable for the why aren't you in? You don't have to get into these in-depth conversations.
No.
We don't expect that, but
No.
it's that 2-second. If someone just acknowledges they realize you weren't there yesterday,
Yeah.
it often curbs a lot of it, but it also makes people feel like they're valued, that you noticed they weren't
Yeah, you
there
noticed that they weren't there.
yesterday. And it opens up the door to have some other conversations if there's other struggles. So a lot of what we're doing is starting to do that coaching and development at that bottom level so that
Good.
they have the tools to deal with some of this.
Good. Wonderful. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. You've started. The other thing about absenteeism is one thing. People don't show up for work. The other problem is presenteeism. They're showing up in the body, but the mind isn't there. So presenteeism is a real issue. And so again, you want to approach that. Looking at your body language today, how you doing? Simple as that. Making them aware. Oh, okay. You know what? Someone is noticing how I am acting today, what I in fact am doing. When you walk by your employee and you see that they've got Indeed up on their laptop, do you ever ask, what's happening? What are you looking at? Have the conversations. Don't let them slip under the rock because they're not going to go away. It's all in the manner that you have the conversation with them. It's that conversation that's important. Okay, in your organization.
Yeah, with our organization, I feel that there is a lot of, I guess there has been communication when the employees are brought on board and when continuing with their managers onto, their fit and role with the company. I definitely feel that that's actually something that was communicated to me when I started a couple months ago is actually we need to more formalize the performance review and the communication process with the employees so they can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because I think that most of our departments they're pretty key on what their role within the organization is, but I think that it's very confined. They're looking at there's kind of a wall here.
You've got silos in your organization, and they have to figure out how to all work. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's also with training the managers as well, because there's very much this kind of culture like, well, that's an HR thing, so HR will do it, and it's just like, no, this is something that HR and the management work together on, and so that's something that I'm really looking forward to in the coming months to come up with a plan with our controller and our GM to try and integrate that more with our managers. So
and I like this. Yeah, it's also you. People are watching you. If you're in HR, they're watching you. Who are you talking to? How are you talking to people? They're very interested in who's in your office. And if they don't really know why that person's in your office, guess what? They're going back out there and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
People like to gossip. It's who we are. It's unfortunate. Males or females, it doesn't matter. Don't be thinking it's only women that do this. No. Your males will do this as well. So we like to create stories if we don't really know what's going on. If you always have that one person in your office, they've been in there 4 times in the last 2 days. What's going on? Yeah.
And I also really liked the piece of what you talked about in engagement between the HR and the staff, because already I haven't been with the company that long, but I've already seen that there's, a little bit of like cliques, like there's, these groups of employees, they like to stay together. And when it comes to like, HR, it's a management position, but it's not, they kind of like, well, you're not in the same type of role as me. And they're like, and so when I like to go through the shop sometimes and just talk to the guy, and the first time they're just kind of like, why are you talking to me?
Why are you here? Are you getting ready to fire me?
Yeah.
Because they think that's what HR does. HR fires. No, they don't. It's the manager. HR, shame on you if that's what you do. That's not what HR does. It's the manager who fires them. You're in there providing here's your severance package. If we have an EAP provider, this is what they will do for you. It's not for HR to fire. It's the relationship between the manager and the employee, the owner and whoever. Okay? But yeah, you're absolutely right. You got to get out there and find out what's going on.
So I think, employees definitely kind of know what their role is.
Okay.
There's a good training program, definitely, at least for the locations that I'm kind of overlooking.
Okay.
A lot of shadowing that goes on. I think the problem is from the manager knowing the purpose of what the employees are doing. So with some of the lower end positions, I think that when it becomes vacant and the employee leaves, they'll say, okay, let's put a job posting out. But then I'll say, well, is there anyone else that's more suitable in the company that can go into that role before we start posting? So I think that's kind of more of a coaching point from the manager's perspective, if we can help them to be able to see the purpose in every single role that the employees do.
Right. Right. As soon as someone resigns, there tends to be panic that comes into an organization. We got to hire. Stop for a minute and say, do we need that same position? Or maybe we should tweak what that person or that individual or that role does. That's a great opportunity for you to look at that and to decide where do we need to edit the posting. All right. How about this table?
Who is the spokesperson again?
Oh, you spoke. Here.
One of the things that I was just thinking of, like, I know for us as a small business, it is very much get the job done, right?
Right.
And so for me, wearing multiple hats, it is get the job done. And so you forget to make emphasis on what is everybody's role?
Yeah.
How do we grow as a company? And I think that's what we're experiencing right now, as we're establishing ourselves, is how do we roll, and how much more important all of a sudden it becomes that the guys out on the job site, when I'm not there, that they know what their role is, and that that employee customer relationship that starts to become important now, because that used to be all mine, right?
Exactly.
But now when that changes, and that's where I find a little bit of a struggle. How do I now communicate properly? More than just getting the job done here.
Yes.
How are you contributing? And how are you now feeling as part of the company, and not just the person that's asked to get something done and go home, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's having the conversation in a meeting to say, as the president or whatever your title is, I'm moving into this. So now you all have a learning opportunity. You are now going to be responsible for that customer relations. And this is what we're expecting, and this is how we're going to do it. You've got to have those conversations. You're following someone. Do you want to add anything else about your observation about the company or what it should be doing? You might have a great idea.
Oh, I'm just here listening on.
I'm trying to make it comfortable for you to make some suggestions. Okay, let's have a break.